I grew up here. I was born and raised in East Syracuse. My roots are very deep here. And my father taught at Lemoyne, where I went to college. And I expressed an interest in going to law school. And he said I should go talk to a professor there, Mary Ann Donnelly. Her husband, Sam Donnelly, was an SU Law School professor. And I really enjoyed her classes. I took 2 of her classes, and then I took a constitutional law class in college, and I was hooked. Professor Richard Goldsmith taught civil procedure my first year of law school. There was a time when he called on a student, but they said, I think I'll pass today. And without missing a beat, Professor Goldsmith said, maybe you will, and maybe you won't. And then he started laughing, and the whole class started laughing. And it eased the tension in the room. As you might imagine, it was pretty high. I think within the next week, I volunteered to answer some questions in his class so that wouldn't happen to me. He was very good about it, and I liked Professor Goldsmith very much and took him for pretty much everything he taught. He taught in a couple of environmental law classes, and I remember sneaking a sign on his door, a Happy Earth Day sign every Earth Day. I love going back to the College of Law and helping out because I think it's really important to train the next generation of lawyers. I think it's really important that they see College of Law graduates involved in their college. Lots of times as a judge, you don't preside over very many happy events. A citizenship ceremony is probably my favorite thing about this job. Something always happens during one of those ceremonies where I find a connection between myself and somebody who's being naturalized. And I also want the students to see it, because I think it's really important. Everybody see at least one of those ceremonies. We've all had, all of our ancestors, most of us, unless you are a Native American, have ancestors that have come through the process and become citizens. And we can't forget that's what our country is made of. This award it's really special. I'm very humbled by it. I'm very grateful for it because I can think of dozens of other people who I feel are much more deserving of this award than I am. To receive this award gives me a little bit of confirmation that I might be doing something right.
Law school was not always fun, but my best memories are the people that I got to meet, and I had some wonderful professors. Don Braverman was one of my favorite professors. He was very invested in both the academic subject and also our professional development. I've tried to bring what I learned at the university to my job, try to be a better listener, try to be someone who's forward-looking in terms of the changes that are going on in our industry, not making decisions in the moment, but thinking about things going forward. I'm not on the board as a spokesperson for the law school. I'm there for the greater university. Having said that, I think having a voice to speak to some of the opportunities and challenges for the law school are very, very important. And being able then to communicate some of the university opportunities and challenges back to the law school is something that I think can be value added for the law school itself. I think the most important thing is, I like to say, dealing with the kids. They're kids to me now. I love talking to the students about the legal profession, how to be successful in their career. I love recruiting people. Some of my best associates at this firm are people who went to the law school. They're not only my favorite people because I've connected with them, but they're doing phenomenally well. We've been very blessed in life, and as a result, we want to give back. And we have funded some scholarships, particularly for people who are interested in going into public service, which we think is a noble calling. My wife and I think it's very, very important. So our scholarships are designed to encourage that. And one of my favorite things is when I connect with the people. We've named these scholarships in honor of my parents, and it gives me an opportunity to tell them about my parents, but also to hear about their aspirations. I'm both honored and humbled to receive the award. We get a lot back from being connected to the law school and the university. It's given me an opportunity to get to know the students better, get to know the mission of the law school. I'm very, very excited about the future of the law school and the future of the university. And to me, the award just gives me a further opportunity to use this as a bully pulpit to continue to be an ambassador for the law school. So I very much appreciate that.
We had some great companionship in my classmates, and we had some outstanding professors. And one of those was Dean Ralph Karras. He appeared by many to be a stern professor, but he had a great, generous heart. Professor Bob Koritz was a outstanding labor law professor and also a good friend. Professor Bob Rabin, who really was after my time at the law school, but I had a lot of good relationships with him. We worked with him through ABA Labor and Employment Law section project where he and some of the students at the school actually produced a labor law review, annual labor law review. So that was a nice experience. Outside of the classroom, probably my most favorite time was Syracuse football and basketball, watching Jim Brown run the field, and I've had seasons tickets ever since. I think it's a natural desire to want to give back if you've been fortunate enough to have the advantages of a place like Syracuse Law School. Fortunately, I've had the opportunity to be involved in a lot of educational efforts locally, and then things like Salvation Army and the Boy Scouts, Model Neighborhood Corporation. I think the law school emphasized excellence in the law, in the pursuit of the learning of the law, and I've tried to continue that through my career and try to help build a firm that had those same high standards. Employing Syracuse law grads is sort of a natural for me because I know where they're coming from. I have a high regard for the professors that are recommending them. So it's just a very natural progression of assuring that we have a continuity of excellence in the firm in the field of labor and employment law and to represent working people. I think it's very meaningful because it's an award from the place where I started it all.
I pursued a law degree at Syracuse mostly because of the national security program that they had there. I knew I was going to go into the military, into the JAG Corps afterwards, and I couldn't think of a better place to help prepare me for that. There were so many professors that made an impact. Professor Ryan was my writing professor. I mean, honestly, if not for her, I'd probably be writing memos in crayon. I mean, she really helped me out. Professor Banks from Inskit, he knew that a few of us were going into national security law and spent a lot of time, extra time training us and, getting us ready for that field. And, who better than Admiral Moret to, kind of show us what it means to be an officer, what it means to be in the field. There were a lot of challenges in setting up a veterans clinic. I remember within the first few weeks of school, we went to Dean Deb Ken and we pitched the idea like we'd like to start a veterans clinic. Little did we know how expensive and how much infrastructure it takes to set up a new clinic. I got a call at 7:30 in the morning after Josh Keefe and I had been pursuing funds for the veterans clinic. And I got a call from State Senator DeFrancisco telling me that he had just found $250,000 to start the clinic. And that was extremely exciting. Josh and I had spent so much time trying to get this thing off the ground. And it seems when I describe it like it happened very easily, but there were a lot of hurdles. And frankly, until we got that call from Senator DeFrancisco, we weren't sure if it was going to happen. Dean Arterian and then later Dean Boyes were just so supportive. The amount of trust it takes to look at two students and say, yeah, go run with this is unbelievable. They took a tremendous amount of risk and hopefully, we made that pay off. I am incredibly humbled to be selected for this award. When they called me and told me I was a winner, there was a lot of shock and like, are you sure? When you look at the other award winners, you have judges and partners at law firms. I don't even know if I could get an internship with them. I owe so much to Syracuse and to the professors and to the deans there. The Navy taught me how to be an officer. Syracuse Law School taught me how to be a leader. And I'm forever indebted to them for that.
In the 1970s, the early 1970s, you didn't have as many women attending law school as you do today. And so as women came into their own, we began to formulate a women's group. But that, for me, presented another issue, because it meant that women wanted me to choose sides. I was being told, you really are a woman first, aren't you? And then I was being told by the black students, no, you're really a black person first, aren't you? And, my response to that is, I really am both. And I'll always be both. Sadly, the legal profession has remained very static. The numbers are somewhere between 4 and 5%, which of course doesn't even approximate the percentages that you have in our general society of people of color. And if you're really going to help an individual, for example, I speak Spanish very fluently. If a client comes to me and Spanish is their first language, I communicate with them much, much better if I can speak their language and they can understand me and we meet on that floor. So diversity, whether it's geographic, whether it's language, whether it's if you're, Hispanic or Latin or Black or Indian, it's important because you meet the person much more easily and you communicate with the person in that way. The more I think people can see someone who looks like me, practicing in a field where they wouldn't normally expect to see someone who looks like me, I think the more people are encouraged to think a little bit outside of the box, but also to think and be comfortable in the profession. Syracuse, I think, gets it. And Syracuse has always, starting as far back as recognizing what the Syracuse 8 stood for. And so for me, the award is more about what it demonstrates for students who are coming into the profession and young women of color who are coming into the profession. And I hope that by them seeing me, that they will be encouraged and buoyed. A mis amigos latinos, la Universidad de Syracuse y el Colegio de la Ley es lo mejor. It's the best.